गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन जन रंजन यशोदा व्रत जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव राधे जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेष भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तेर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरौ श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिसिद्धान्त सरस्वती निति नामिने श्रीवार्षभानवि देवी दयिताय कृपाब्धये कृष्णसम्बन्धविज्ञान दायिने प्रभवे नमः। माधुर्योज्ज्वल प्रेमाढ्य श्रीरूपानुगभक्तिदा श्रीगौरा करुणाशक्ति विग्रहाय नमोस्तुते। नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दीनतारिणे रूपानुगा विरुद्धाप सिद्धान्तद्वान्तहारिणे नमो गौरकिशोराय साक्षात् वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलम्बारसाम्बोधे पादाम्बुजायते नमः। नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय रूपानुगावरायते गौराविर्भावभूमेस्त्वं निर्देष्टा सज्जनप्रियः वैष्णवः सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महाधन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। जयतां सुरतोर्पङ्गुर्मामन्दमतेर्गति मत्सर्वस्वापदाम्बोजो राधामदनमोहनो दिव्यवृन्दारण्यकल्पद्रुमादः श्रीमद्रत्नागार सिंहासनस्थो श्रीमद्राधा श्रीलगोविन्ददेवो रश्रालिभिः विमानो स्मरामि श्रीमान् रासरसारम्भे वंशीवटतटस्थिता कर्षं वेणुस्वनैर्गोपीर्गोपीनाथः श्रियस्तुनः तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरि वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। सर्वशास्त्राब्धिपीयूष सर्ववेदैकसत्फल सर्वसिद्धान्तरत्नाढ्य सर्वलोकैकत्रिप्रदा सर्वभागवतप्राण श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभो कलिद्वान्तोदितादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तित परमानन्दपाठान्य प्रेमवर्षाक्षरायते प्रेम प्रेमवर्षाक्षरायते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याय श्रीकृष्णाय नमोस्तुते। मदेकबन्धो मत्सङ्गेन् मद्गुरो मन्महाजन मन्निस्तार्गमद्भाग्य मदानन्द नमोस्तुते। असाधु साधुता दायिन्नतिनीचो च तारक अनां च कदाचिन्मां प्रेम्णा हृत्कण्ठयो स्पृहा। So we were in the fifth chapter and we started off with the fifth chapter after discussing the first chapter where Narada when approaches Vyasa. At that time Vyasa was contemplating what is the reason for my dissatisfaction. This contemplation is a very important aspect in our devotional service. Contemplation actually involves one of the important things in contemplation is introspection. Srila Prabhupada says introspective sage. And Vyasa was introspecting what is the problem with him. In spite of all the greatest of all the achievements, he's not satisfied. When he was contemplating, then he says, Kimba, maybe is it because of Bhagavata Dharma na prayena nirupitaha. 31st verse of the 4th chapter. Kimva, the word Kimva means, is it because there was a doubt at the same time, the thing which came in his mind was perfect. It is because he has not described the Bhagavad Dharma the way it is supposed to be described. Priyaha Paramahamsanam Taivahi Achyuta Priyaha. Priyahi Paramahamsanam. This Bhagavad Dharma is very dear to the devotees. Taivahi Achyuta Priyaha. That is why it is very dear to Achyuta. Then while I was contemplating like this, then what happened? Narada came to his place. Now, in the section which we discussed there, there is one word which I spoke about it. That is Tathapi Batame Diyo Hi Atma Chaivatmana Vibhu. Tatapi. Tatapi is the word which I asked you to memorize yesterday. Just one word. That will destroy all your faith in all the material achievements which you have and which you want to have. Because whatever you had have no much use. It's the same. That is the consciousness which is bound to matter, Baddhavastha, that is the same. Whether you are a millionaire, a billionaire, or just a poor man, conditioned nature will not allow you to be happy. So the cause of our happiness is not matter. Neither the cause of our unhappiness is matter, because matter doesn't matter actually. Tatapi Batame Diyo Hi Atma Chaivatmana Vibhu Asampanna Vivabhati Brahma Varchasa Sattva. So Asampanna Vivabhati. Why am I feeling that? When he was contemplating, then like this, Narada approached. Krishnasya Narado Bhyagat Ashramam Pragudahrutam. He came to the same ashrama where, which was described before. That means Brahmadhyam Saraswatyam, on the banks of river Saraswati, Samyaprasa, that is the place Narada came. Narada came, Vyasa worshipped him like Brahma would be worshipped. And then Atatvam Sukamasinam Upasinam Prapachava. This is how the 5th chapter starts. How Athatam Sukamasinam, making Narada sit on a very nice, wonderful asana. Asinam Upasinam Brahachravaha. Devarshi Praha Viprashim Veena Pani Smayanniva. Then smiling at Vyasa. Vyasa's disposition, Vyasa's despondency. Narada is smiling. Like Krishna also smiled seeing Arjuna crying. You may say, oh, disciple is crying and spiritual master is smiling. It is true. There Krishna also he talks about Prasanniva Bharata. Here also, my Veena Pani Smayanniva. So it was not possible for him to hide the smile because he knew that he is going to ask some questions which are very interesting. So Narada, he asks questions to Vyasa in 3 verses, and Vyasa expresses his surrender to Narada. Narada, he speaks 3 verses, asking certain questions to Vyasa, and Vyasa, he actually surrenders to Narada in 3 verses. So we are done till the 7th verse yesterday. We'll have a small review of these 6 verses. 3 verses spoken by Narada, 3 verses spoken by Vyasa, because very interesting. As I told yesterday, in the entire history, right from the dawn of creation, right from Brahma's creation, Brahma being born from Garbhodaksha Vishnu, that is also not such a big history. The real history is this. That is, in spite of Vyasa writing all the Vedic literatures, he was unhappy. Just imagine, you had all the Veda, you studied all the Veda, you studied the Brahma Sutras, still you are unhappy. Then what is the use? So here is a historical event which is going to happen now, which is being described now. That is Parascharya Mahabhaga Kujidatmana Paritushyeti Shariratma Manasaiva. No, directly is pinpointing Narada. He doesn't beat around the bush. Directly says, Parascharya Mahabhaga, you are a great fortunate personality, being son of Parashara. Parashara is the son of Shakti. Shakti is the son of Vasishta. Coming in the Vasishta Gotra. Vasishta Gotra is not the ordinary thing. Vasishta, by whose tolerance, whose patience and mercy and humility, even a cruel king like Kaushika became a Brahmarshi. Such a great personality who gave Vishwamitra to this world. The cruelest most king at that time was Vishwamitra. He could not tolerate Brahmin having opulence. He could not tolerate having Brahminical Brahmins being more affluent than the Kshatriyas. So he thought the Kshatriyas should be more opulent. Brahmins are pure, poor. Gurukul, what did this require? It requires only some few fruits. So he could not tolerate Kamadhenu being there in the ashrama of Vasishta. So he's coming in the line of Vasishta. Vasam Vasishtanaptaram Yakte Potrama Karmasham Parasharatmajam Mande Parasharatmaja. So Parascharya Mahabhaga Bhavata Kujidatmana Paritushyeti. So question asked was, how is it possible that anybody can be happy by considering body to be the soul and mind to be the soul? So if you consider body to be the soul, that is one kind of the Atma Buddhi, and considering mind to be the soul, that is another kind of the Atma Buddhi. The first kind of Dhyatma Buddhi is enjoyment in this world. The second kind of Dhyatma Buddhi is enjoyment in multiple bodies. That is, go to Swarga and enjoy, come back, again go to Swarga and enjoy, or in this world only, next life I'll get a better, beautiful body, handsome body, and I can be very strong, tall, and then I can enjoy with all the opulence. So this is one kind of ignorance. That is enjoyment in other multiple bodies. Enjoyment in this world, who knows next life? Once the body is burnt, how is he going to come back? Let me enjoy in this life itself. That is another kind of the Atma Buddhi. So Vyasa, he says, how is it you can be happy by identifying yourself with the body or identifying yourself with the mind? Now, next, Vyasa say, somebody may say to Narada, no, Vyasa is not happy because he is not having knowledge. Narada says, having no knowledge is not your problem because you have knowledge. You have unlimited knowledge rather. Vishala Buddhe. And you have created the Mahabharata. Namosute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindayata Patrane Yenatvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha. He actually wrote the Mahabharata. Oh, what a literature it is. Jignasitam Susampannam Apite Mahadadbhutam Kritvan Bhagavatam Yastvam. Third verse. You have created the Mahabharata. You wrote it. And what is that knowledge which is not there in Mahabharata? If you have written, that means you have the knowledge of everything. That means your cause of your dissatisfaction is not of lack of knowledge. You have it, but still you are dissatisfied. No, I'm actually not having spiritual knowledge. The knowledge is the absolute truth. What to speak of that? You have delineated the knowledge of the absolute truth to such an extent in the Brahma Sutras, Jignasitam Aditam Cha, Brahma Yattat Sanatanam. You have described the Brahma Tattva, the absolute truth, with all its cause and effect in such a meticulous way in Vedanta Sutras. You refuted all the other antagonistic philosophies like Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Yoga, Purvamamsa, Uttarvamamsa, the Mayavada, Buddhism, Jainism, every philosophy which is antagonistic to the acceptance of the Supreme Lord, you are defeated perfectly. And there is no question which are not answered in the Vedanta Sutras. And not only you are defeated, but you also establish the nature of the absolute truth. And tatapi, in spite of you having spiritual knowledge. Earlier it was only pertaining to knowledge. Uh, Third verse. Now, in spite of you having spiritual knowledge, but still you are unhappy. Tatapi sochasyatmanam akritarthaiva prabhu. The three verses. Ultimately, whether you have knowledge, whether you have spiritual knowledge, until unless you have aswadana, purnamrita aswadana. Without aswadana, spiritual life is no life at all. That is why everybody is aspiring for rasajnanam. So the whole purpose of Narada speaking these verses is to inspire Vyasa to write Bhagavatam. So if you want to know the summary of the 5th chapter, in short, Narada want Vyasa to write Bhagavatam. Now, if you remember, Kena Hetuna, one of the questions was, why did Vyasa write Bhagavatam? And on whose inspiration did he write Bhagavatam? That was the question in the 4th chapter. So that question is answered here. Why and whose inspiration? Narada's inspiration. Now, Vyasa, after hearing to Narada's 3 verses, 5th verse, Vyasa says, Astiva me sarvamidam tayuktam. You express your surrender to the spiritual master by accepting whatever, oh my dear spiritual master, told is perfect about me. If spiritual master says you're an idiot, yes, it's perfect. The spiritual master says that, oh, it's something wrong with you, it is perfect. Don't try to justify. Here, just see Vyasa, he just wrote the entire Vedas, all the Puranas, the Vedanta Sutras, Mahabharata. After writing this, he is still accepting that Narada, oh, whatever you are told about me is perfect. Now, Tayuktam, Tatapi Natma Paritushyate me. I am not really happy. Again, Tatapi word came. But you ask me why I am not happy. Tanmulam, the reason for my unhappiness. Avyaktam, it is not manifest for me. Agadha Bodham, you are. Agadha Bodha, you are infinite, have infinite knowledge. Prichamahe, I am asking you. Prichami Tvam, Prichamahe. Yes, see Gita and Bhagavatam. Tvam, Bhavatma Bhutam. Oh, you are actually born from the unborn. God is unborn. And Brahma is also unborn. And you are born from the two unborns. The one who is born from the unborn. You are born from the person who is unborn and also born from the unborn. That kind of, that is why it is called Tvatma Bhavatma Bhutam. Anyhow, going further, 6th verse. Savai Bhavan Veda Samasta Guhyam. I'm having a small recap of what we did yesterday because they are very interesting verses. Narada coming, such a great personality, Vyasa, he's telling, oh, what are you? You're not happy in spite of doing all these things. You're crying. Like you go to some Mukesh Ambani or some Ambani or some Peramal or some big personality and say, what is this? Just see, in spite of all the wealth, you're crying. So it's like that. He'll be shocked. But still, yes, you are true. What you're saying is true. Savai Bhavan Veda Samasta Guhyam Upasito Yat Purusha Puranaha. Savai Bhavan. Oh, you are Veda Samasta Guhyam. You Veda, you know. What? Samasta Guhyam. You know all the secrets. Because Upasito Yat Purusha Puranaha. By worshipping the Supreme Lord, you got the nature of the Supreme Lord. Paravareshu Manasaiva Vishwam Sujatyavattati Gunaira Sangaha. Who is that Lord whom you worship? He creates, maintains, and destroys. He does creation, maintenance, and destruction. All the 3 things he does. But at the same time, he is not affected by these 3 things. So you know the whole secret, all the secrets, especially the secret of your own disciple. You should know what's going on in my heart. That is why you are like Tvam Paryatan Narka Ivatrilokim. 7th verse. You are there like sun and you know everything. You're a sakshi for everything outside. And not only that, Antascharo Vayuryatma Sakshi. Inside the consciousness, inside my heart, you know everything what's happening because you are like air, Vayu. Pranan Namo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam. You are prana. Antas Praha. Prana is going through our body. It's like rotating throughout the body. That is why we are able to breathe, we are able to speak, see, all these things because of the prana. Pranavayu goes, everything is gone. So you are like that antascharo pranavayu. Pranavayuratma sakshi. Not all vayus are sakshi, only pranavayu sakshi. Pranavayu is being described by of course, when scriptures talk about Pranavayu Hanuman. Dhruva Maharaj, he says that, oh Lord, it is because of you. Yam tap parvishya mama vacha imam prasuptam. Mama vacha imam prasuptam. The vacha shakti, which is prasuptam, which was actually sleeping, sanjeeva yet akya shakti dharaswadhamna. You actually made that bring back to life. So it is actually prana which are actually observing each and everything which is going on in our consciousness. So you know, you are like that prana. Paravare brahmani dharmato vrataihi snatasya me nunamalam vichakshava. So you are avare brahmani. All the knowledge, Vedic knowledge you studied very nicely by repeatedly studying the Vedic literatures. You have realized the knowledge. So I want to hear from you because alam vichakshavaha snatasya me nunam alam vichakshavaha. Though I feel that I have done so many things, but it is new, it is insufficient. I am not able to get the satisfaction. There's something missing. I want to know from you, my dear spiritual master. Please give that rasa to me so that I can get satisfied. The Narada, he starts speaking from the 8th verse, which is the subject matter for today. Very interesting verses are coming. And Narada, when he speaks, he is to the point. He doesn't go beat around the bush. He directly tells Vyasa, oh Vyasa, 8th verse, Narada Vacha, Bhavatanudita prayam yasho bhagavato malam enivaso natushyeta manyeta darshanam kilam. Oh, Bhavata anuditaha prayaha. Your problem, I'll tell you. You have not anuditaha prayaha. You have not bhavata means by you anudita prayaha yasho bhagavato amalam. The glories of Bhagavata, glories of Bhagavan Krishna has not been described by you enough. I have not been described by you enough. Yenaiva so natushyeta. That is the reason for your dissatisfaction. Directly Narada told. See, truth can be spoken straightforward to a person who is very surrendered. Vyasa is totally a surrendered disciple. A surrendered disciple of Narada. So Narada took all the liberty to tell the truth point blank on the face. He said, the reason for your dissatisfaction is you are not described the glories of Krishna to the extent you are supposed to describe. Even little bit of glorification of Krishna is not going to work. You have to describe to such an extent that your heart is overwhelmed with the description. Your heart is overwhelmed by hearing about Krishna. Little bit here and there, no. Sometimes people say spiritual life is like achar. Achar means chutney, achar, pickle. It should be like a pickle. That means if it is too much, you cannot eat. It's too spicy. If it is too little, then maja nahi aata life. So spiritual life should be like this. It should not be too much, or it should not be too less. It should be little bit. That's all, not much. So bhavata anudita prayam yasho bhagato amalam yenaivasu natushyeta manye. That is my opinion. And Vyasa told, no. You just You just read the Vedanta Sutras. The Vedanta Sutras are filled with such wonderful descriptions of the absolute truth. Brahma Sutras, Vedanta Sutras, Vyasa Sutras, Vadarayana Sutras. You must be knowing by now what are they. Matato Brahma Jigyasa. It starts with that Atato Brahma Jigyasa, Shastra Yunitvat, Suteshuddha Mulatvat, Tattva Samanvayat. In this way, these Vedanta Sutras start. Atato Brahma Jigyasa, Janmadhyasyato, Janmadhyasyataha, Om, Shastra Yunitvat, Om. Like that, there are about 555 sutras. In different commentaries, you have a little bit high and low because they make 2 into 1 and 1 into 2 sutras like that. These Vedanta Sutras, they are so perfectly compiled. There is no work like that, and there cannot be any other work like that, any other book like that. So I written that, but answering that argument of Vyasa, that I have written Vedanta Sutras, which has nothing to do with dharma, artha, or kama, nothing to do with it. There's nothing material in Vedanta Sutras, because Vedanta Sutras start with the description of Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Now onwards, just here the descriptions of Brahman, both positive and negative, or both the direct descriptions of Brahman and also the refutation of raw descriptions of Brahman. So everything about Brahman, there is nothing, no inch of, not a iota of sense enjoyment in Brahma Sutras, because the Karavimamsa philosophy, which is a prelude to which is one step below the six systems of philosophy, Karavimamsa or Jaimini's Purvimamsa philosophy. So that is refuted right from the beginning. There is no scope of any sense enjoyment in the Brahma Sutras. Then I described the glories of the Lord. Then Vyasa says, Narada says, Tad darshanam kilam banye tad darshanam kilam. Kilam means that philosophy is not sufficient, is incomplete. If that philosophy, though it is description of the philosophy of the absolute truth, but if that doesn't contain the description of the absolute truth qualities, description of the divine nature, activities of the absolute truth Krishna, then even that philosophy without Krishna's descriptions, Krishna's pastimes, is kilam. That is why Srila Prabhupada, in the purport, he talks about the compiler of Vedanta Sutra is Vyasadeva himself, yet he is troubled. In the last paragraph, I'm just reading few lines of Prabhupada's purports. Although he is author, so what sort of transcendental bliss can be derived by the reader and the listener of Vedanta, which is not explained directly by Vyasa, the author? It says, when Vyasa himself is the author of Vedanta Sutra, then if he himself is not satisfied after writing Vedanta Sutra, how can you expect somebody who is reading the Vedanta to be satisfied? Aksharas Thakur once told, after reading the entire Brahma Sutra, one who has understood the Brahma Sutra is the one who cries because he did not understand. If you understood, that means you're in ignorance. If you're not understood and crying that you have not understood, you have understood Brahma Sutras. Of course, I am too philosophical now. Herein lies the necessity of explaining Vedanta Sutras in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam by a self-same author. So, Srila Prabhupada concludes that until unless there is an explanation to what Vyasa has written in the Brahma Sutras, there will be no satisfaction neither for Vyasa nor for the people who are reading Brahma Sutras. That is why the verse which actually glorifies Bhagavatam, remember this verse, very nice. When you are studying Bhagavatam, then you should remember this verse. That is Bhash. Talks about how Brahma Sutra Artha. I'm not getting the words. Arthoyam Brahma Sutranam. Arthoyam Brahma Sutranam. Then Bharatartha Vinirneha, Gayatri Bhasharuposo, Vedartha Paribramitaha. What is Bhagavatam? It is Arthoyam Brahma Sutrana. It is actually the Artha of meaning of Brahma Sutras are nicely described in the Bhagavatam. That is, the Bhagavatam is a natural commentary on Vedanta Sutras. So, if there is no commentary, the Sutras are insufficient to give you enjoyment, give you transcendental bliss. Once it happened in Kumbh Mela. I heard a story. This is from one of Prabhupada's disciples. He told that it was last Kumbh Mela that Prabhupada attended, and devotees were distributing Bhagavad Gitas. Somebody came and told at the time, I think it was Gopal Maharaj. At the time it was not Maharaj. That, oh, why are you distributing Bhagavad Gita so big, so expensive? You just print the verse and the translation, and then you will sell millions because it will be cheaper also. Small book, everyone would like to purchase. Then the message was given to Prabhupada that we can sell millions of Gitas. Now we are only selling thousands. If you just print the translation, the verse and the translation, it will be cheaper, and also it will be lighter, so that we can sell millions of Bhagavad Gitas. Then Prabhupada said, nonsense. If you want to sell the Gita with my purpose. Otherwise, not required to sell Bhagavad Gita. So our founder Acharya was so much convinced about the purpose, the explanation. Actually, the verse and the translation will not give you as much as enjoyment as a commentary gives you. It is a commentary which actually gives. And if it is a commentary or the commentary, it gives more enjoyment. Sukhamukad Amrita Drava Samyutam, as the parampara goes, the rasa of Bhagavatam, the moola verse increases. I'll give you a simple example. Most of you must be knowing the juice concentrates. Like if you want to make orange juice for 100 people in your satsang program, you are invited, 100 devotees have come, and you want to give them some orange juice. Of course, the best is to buy fresh oranges and then make juice and give. But of course, in modern, we are all accustomed to this kind of a chemicalized thing, preservatives and all. You go to the shop and buy one bottle. It says orange juice. So it is only 1 liter. That person says, how many people are coming to your house? He says that we have got 100. Just take two bottles, that's enough. In 1 liter, you can make 50 liters. In 1 liter, in 2 liters, you can make 100 for 100 people. So in this way, 2 liters are enough for a whole 100 people. You can make it 1 liter into maybe 20, 25 liters like that. So when you dilute it, it's actually, you say it actually dilute, it's actually expansion. It's not actually diluting, it's expanding. That is drinkable, it's very juicy. Or if you directly drink the concentrate, you cannot enjoy. Rather, you just spit at it. Oh, it's very bitter. Right? It should be sweet, but it becomes bitter because it's concentrate. So these sutras are like concentrate. These verses like concentrate. So when the acharyas give commentary over it, the concentrate becomes drinkable and becomes juicy. So that is what is happening here. He says, Tad darshanam kilam, that is insufficient. Though it is concentrate, you can make 100 glasses of juice out of it, but the concentrate is useless because it is bitter. So nature is the same, both are transcendental. Brahma Sutra is also transcendental, and Bhagavatam is also transcendental. But it is a nature that the commentary, when it is given by Vyasa himself, that becomes wonderful. That is why that darshanam kilam. Now, go to the next verse, 9th verse. The argument was that you are saying Vyasa, Narada, Vyasa is telling Narada that you are saying that I have not described the absolute truth. I have not described Krishna's pastimes. But have you read the Puranas? And especially have you read the Purana, Padma Purana, Vishnu Purana? What pastimes of Radha Krishna are not described in Bhagavatam? I have described them in those Puranas. In the Bhagavatam, you don't even find the name of Radharani very explicitly being spoken. But in other Puranas, Radharani's name is explicitly spoken. So Radha Krishna pastimes, any Krishna's pastimes, are there in the Puranas? They are written in the Puranas also. And answering this question, or objection by Vyasa to Narada. What is that objection? That I have written Puranas in which the past is described. That is why, as you told in the Bhavatanudita Prayamesho Bhagavatomanam, Bhagavata Yasha, I have already described Puranas. Narada says, you have described. I'm not saying no, you have not described, but there is a problem. What is the problem? Yatha dharmadayascha muni varyanu nata vasudeva natata. As much as you described dharma, artha, moksha, to that extent you have not described Bhagavan's Mahima, the qualities of Krishna. Krishna's pastimes are also described. But how much you described? You have not described them as much as you have described Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. In the Puranas, this is the problem. That is why Bhagavatam is called Amala Puran. Srimad Bhagavatam Puramalam Yadvaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Paramhamsam Jnanam Param Giyate Tatshunvan Supatan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimucche Naraha Tatra Jnana Viraga Bhakti Saitam Naishkarvima Vishrutam Tatshunvan Supatan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimucche Naraha. It's very beautiful verse. So why Bhagavatam is called Purana Amalam? Because Dharma Projita Kaita Botra Paramo. Of course, I'm just quoting these verses, and there are few people who relish this kind of talk. If you know these verses, you will relish. But those of you who have not really memorized these verses, put this verses in memory, you may be thinking what's happening in this class. So, Dharma Projita Kaita Botra Paramo. Because in the Bhagavatam, the Dharma has been completely uprooted. उखाड़ के फेंक दिया समूल धर्म प्राउज्जिता prakrushta रूपेण उज्जिता. That is why it is amala. Whereas other Puranas, they are also transcendental mala. There is some mala. What is that? What is that mala? That mala, ignorance, is dharma artha kama moksha. Who told dharma artha kama moksha as ignorance? It is told by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. That is why introducing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is described that one day Guru Nisha Bhaktam Isham Nisha Avatargam Tat Prakasha Tat Shakti Krishna Chaitanya Sanjakam De Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahodito Gaurode Pushpanto Chitro Sando Tamonato. So these two personalities, Chaitanya and Nityananda, they appeared for what? To remove the tamoguna, tamas, ignorance from the heart of the people, from ignorance in this world. What is that ignorance? That ignorance is dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. That is ignorance. Just imagine, Veda, 4 Purusharthas. There are 4 Purusharthas which are mentioned in the Vedas. The whole Vedas are talking about dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. And now Chaitanya Charitamrita comes and says these 4 are ignorance. What does it say? Veda is ignorance. Just keep silence. So just imagine the potency of Chaitanya and Nityananda, what they have done. The whole world was telling Veda, 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 and these people don't care. It's all ignorance. Just chant Hare Krishna. That is why Narada is telling Vyasa, Yatha dharma deyaschartha muni varyana kirtitaha. Muni, as much as you have described dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, you have not described Krishna's pastimes. That is why in the Puranas, though you find Krishna Katha, but it is not of the same voltage of the Krishna Katha in Bhagavatam. If you study Krishna Katha, if you read Krishna Katha from Bhagavatam, you will get Krishna Prema. But in the Puranas, you may not get Krishna. You may get some information, or you may get, oh, nice, you get some purification of heart. But the Krishna Prema, experience of Prema, Prema Varshaksharayate, can only happen by studying Bhagavatam, even if you don't know the meaning of the verse. Just by the every akshara, is like a cloud which showers Krishna Prema. That's what Sanatana Goswami says. Prema Varshe Aksharayate. Those 5 verses we chant every day in the beginning of the class. Memorize those verses. Every day. Now lockdown is going on. What else you can do? Memorize verses. These verses, when you put into memory, that is the thing which helps you when your body is not working. Now at least everybody is in lockdown. I was telling a few devotees here that everybody has to face lockdown in their life. Now this lockdown is a universal lockdown. Everybody is in lockdown. You cannot go out. But there will be a time when you will be going out, you will be in the bed. Your hands and legs will not move. Your eyes will be blind also. Ear may be deaf. At that time, what are you going to relish? You're only going to relish those verses of Bhagavad which you have memorized in your youth. Verses you have memorized when you have got time. This is the time, memorize these verses. Prema Varshaksharayate. It's not the same. Krishna Katha mentioned or described in the Puranas is not the same voltage as the Krishna Katha mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. That is why Bhagavatam has got some speciality. Of course, as we go through these verses, next verses onwards, we come to know the speciality. Then Narada says, Anuvarnita yatha dharmadeshtartha mune varyani kirtitaha natata vasudevasya mahima. Now, Vasudevasya Mahima refers to 3 things. Number 2 is the glory of Krishna's pastimes and the glory of devotion. The glory of devotion. Glory of devotion. And also the glory of Krishna himself. So these things are known as Vasudeva Katha, or in other words it is Vasudeva Mahima. As much as Dharma, Artha and Kama Moksha described, to such an extent you are not described the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, what is the problem? What is the problem in the Puranas? The problem in the Puranas is that Dharma, Artha, Kama are clearly described. More than that, if at all the glory of devotion has been described, you know what it has been, how it has been described? It has been described as a means for moksha. It has been described as a means for moksha. That means by bhakti you get mukti. The Narada says, Vyasa. On the name of glorifying Krishna, on the name of glorifying devotion, you have practically insulted devotion, insulted Devi. Because you are written in the Puranas, if you read this chapter, oh, you will go to heaven, or if you do this thing, then it is equivalent to doing Ashwamedha Yajna. Not only that, you said, by doing bhakti, by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna's names, by reading Krishna's pastimes, you know what is going to happen? You'll get mukti. That means you have kept mukti here, and bhakti is the means for mukti. By bhakti you get mukti. That means what you have done? You have insulted bhakti as only a sadhana, and you have made mukti a sadhya. Sadhya means goal. Because of that, you have a problem. No. Vyasa says you don't know. You have not heard Bhagavad Gita. You have not read Vishnu Purana. You have not read Padma Purana. Especially in the Bhagavad Gita, I spoke one verse. In the Mahabharata verse. In the Bhagavad Gita. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samam sarveshu bhuteshu madhyam labate jasi. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma means one who has attained liberation. For him bhakti labate, for he gets devotion. I have also spoken. Don't think I don't know the philosophy of bhakti. Vyasa may argue like that. I'm just put it in a dramatic way, that's all. So then Narada says, yes, you have done. But the problem is not, you have not done repeatedly. Anuvarnitaha, Note this word in this verse, 9th verse, Anuvarnitaha. In the Puranas, another defect is that you have not done it repeatedly. I want you to write one book where the glory of Krishna, the glory of bhakti are repeatedly spoken, because it is a repetition which gives realization. It is the contemplation on the realization which gives you relishment. So aswadana comes because of repetition. Anandamayo bhyasat. Anandamayo. Want to attain another in repetition. Is why sadhu swadu pade anandam. Why is that there? Sound is not clear. And I have not touched any of these things. Internet is also same. Is it the complaint from everyone? It is good, Prabhuji. Okay, very good. So, I got the I lost the touch. Anandambudhi vardhanam. So, where do you get ananda from? You get ananda from repetition. The thing which you actually repeat again and again, it is because you get ananda. Anuvarnita means repetition. Vedanta Sutra somehow gives a glimpse last. You go on repeating. It is a repetition which gives you realization, and that leads to bliss. When bliss is there, you repeat, and more bliss, repeat, more bliss, repeat, more bliss. That is why in our Krishna consciousness, don't try to get something new information. Try to find a newness in the same thing what you have known. If I'm given a chapter on a Bhagavad Gita, if I have given two books, one is which I've already read, other is which I have not read. I prefer to read what has already been read by, because that gives bliss. Yet nutanasya ishasya, that is what katamapi shanvanapi katam muhuhu. When Sukadeva Goswami speaking Bhagavad Parikshit Maharaj, Nagasura left his party, and Laga was killed. At that time, he asked, I want to hear about the pastimes of Krishna, especially Brahma Vimonila. That whole stories are not going to get into that details. Then Parikshit Maharaj, when he asked this thing, Sukadeva Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj, Oh, Tvaya Bhagavatottama, Uttamottama, you are the greatest of all the Bhagavatas, because Shunvannapi, even though you have heard this pastimes right from childhood, and you want to hear again and again, because in Nutanasya Ishasya, you are able to find newness in the same thing what you have heard. That is why Anavritti Shabdat, Anuvarnita. So you have to read, you have to write a book where every akshara is talking the glory of Krishna. Every akshara is talking the glory of bhakti. Every akshara is actually describing pastimes of Krishna. I want you to write such a book. So that is the meaning of the word anuvartita. Now, let us see. After liberation, which is the last item in the line of performing religiosity, one is engaged in pure devotional service. That is a stage called self-realization or Brahmavutta stage. In the purport it says, after attaining the Brahmavutta stage, one is satisfied. But satisfaction is the beginning of transcendental bliss. So here, satisfaction what Prabhupada is talking about is actually satisfaction with whatever you have materially. That's all. So that is the beginning of transcendental bliss. One should progress by attaining neutrality and equality in the relative world, and passing this stage of equality, one is fixed in transcendental service of the Lord. This is the instruction of personality. The conclusion is that in order to maintain the status quo of Brahmavutta stage and as also to increase the degree of transcendentalization, Narada recommended to Vyasa. Vyasa should now eagerly and repeatedly display the path of devotional service. This would cure him from despondency. repetition. If you are interested in new information, no transformation. It is not what is there in tell me knowledge. Supreme servant, serving. That's all. Anything else more than that? But unlimited descriptions are expansions on this, only repetition, nothing else. Hare Krishna. Same Bhagavatam, same Gita. Repeat. So 10th verse. Now the question comes here that what about Vedas? I have written so much wonderful things. Even Vedas are talking about Krishna only. I wrote many Upanishads, they are talking about Krishna only. I wrote Vedanta Sutras, which are actually describing Krishna. Then they are very wonderful, they're very poetic. Then he says no. Because if any literature, even though it may be very poetic, if it is not describing Krishna, then what are they? Then the 10th verse. If you read the Upadeshamrita, in the very beginning purport, Srila Prabhupada quotes these two words, which one is the negative description, negative glorification of Krishna's pastimes, means Yadvachaschitrapadam hareryasho jagatam pranitakarhichit tadvaisam kitamushanti manasa nayatra hamsa shikshaya. Beautiful words. Na yadvachaha chitrapadam hareryasho. Na hareryashaha chitrapadam. What mean words? Those words are not describing or not decorated with those Krishna. Vichitra padam means, though it may be very poetic, but if it is not decorated by Krishna, Jagat Pavitram Agranita Karichis. What is the nature of Hare Yashaha? Jagatam. They can purify the entire world. Now, those words, even though they nicely written, poetic, Tadvayasam tirtha mushanti manasa. Manasa, great devotees. They say they are vayasam tirtham. Mushanti. They consider what they consider as vayasam tirtham. Vayasam tirtham what? Pilgrimage for crows. Pilgrimage for Ushti manasa. Nayatramsa niravantu sikya. In those words, Paramahamsas, Niravanti, they don't take interest in that. They just, though it is nice poetry, is not glorifying Krishna. There, it is not, the poetry is not decorated by the glories of Krishna. Then Manasa, great people, they just say, hey, what is this nonsense? They consider it to be a crows. I don't know whether you know something most. The crows are the only in the 84 lakh species, but the crows are the things which talk the most. Caw, caw, caw. And if you have seen crows, I don't know, in cities, crows also don't come because the crows also see. These days cities have become so bad. Hardly crows come. But in our village, I said, as soon as you keep some vessels outside for eat something, some kachara there, all the crows come. And then you see two crows. One crow looks like as a cow. One other crow looks like a cow. Two crows are speaking with each other without knowing what they are speaking. Because one crow is telling the other crow, the crow doesn't know. Right? It's described, another Puranas, Agastya describes the language of crows, but for humans to understand. Only humans can understand what the crow is speaking. The crows don't understand what the crow is speaking. So that means Vayasam Tirtham means in this world everybody is speaking without any connection with Krishna Katha. But what the other person is speaking, this person doesn't know. What this person is speaking, other person doesn't know. That means useless talk. So, Nayadvachas Chitrapadam Hareryashaha. Now going further, Manasa. Who are those Manasa? They are the people who are devotees. These devotees are Na Ramanti. Na Ramanti. They don't enjoy this place where it is full of pilgrims. That means, in one sense, Vyasa, Narada is telling Vyasa, you may have so many literatures which are written by you, but there is a problem in that. The problem is there is no 100% glorification of Krishna, 100% glorification of Krishna Bhakti, 100% description of Krishna's pastimes. Because of this, all the literatures which you have written till now, it is nothing but Vayasam Tirtham. Manasa, devotees don't enjoy. And you are a devotee. Vyasa, you are a devotee. So you also are not enjoying what you have written. That's why you have to write another book. So every word that I am speaking here is just to convince Vyasa to write Bhagavatam, While asking him to write Bhagavatam, he is telling what should be the content in Bhagavatam, how refined it should be, how wonderful it should be. All these things are he's giving the input, but the intent behind it is that I want you to write Bhagavatam. Okay, so it is 12 o'clock now. If you have questions, please do write down. Okay. Okay, internet issue, too many issues, user watching panel affecting the speed. Okay, I am able to hear clearly. I think it's only temple internet problem. Okay, Bhakti Shastra is also going on parallelly. Bhakti Shastri. Okay. Okay, any questions please do ask, then I can go further. Because if you don't have, then I'll go further. Oh, Tadvasam Tirtham, what is the exact meaning? So if you see Tadvasam Tirtham, actually it is a metaphysical understanding of how horrible is those letters which are devoid of Krishna consciousness. Tirtha means a place of pilgrimage. Place of pilgrimage means where people flock together. So Vayasam means crows. The place where the crows flock together. And when the crows are flocked together, they go on saying, cow, cow, cow. Only crow can stay there. Hamsas cannot stay there. It is so disgusting. So if you want to know Tadvayasam Tirtham, the what exactly it means, the import of it is, the literatures which are not decorated by the glorification of Krishna, those literatures are disgusting to hear, disgusting for devotees. As disgusting as the sound of the crows. So that is what I can tell you. Now, even SB, Srimad Bhagavatam, describes so many subject matters apart from bhakti, a universal creation. Very good question. I kept this in suspense so that somebody would ask a question. Not only just creation. In the Bhagavatam, there are many verses, some words talking about a very beautiful woman playing with the balls, and the description of her chest, the waist, and all are there. And not only that, in the Bhagavatam, there is one verse which says that well, there was one king, he had 4 sons. One son went to the forest. When he came back, he got the father as a share. All the other 3 sons, they took away the father's property, like Nabagha. And there was one person, one king, who went for a brahmachari life. When he came back, he just got son father as a property. So now, what about them? How to understand that particular section, and also how to understand the description of a young beautiful woman just playing with the ball, and also the glorification of uh, uh, glorification of universal form. How do you understand that? So it can be understood like this: that in the Bhagavatam, whenever you find the descriptions, the very nature of the description is in such a way that it is not antagonistic to attaining Krishna Prema. Like Rasamalayam. His Holiness Radha Govind Maharaj used to give a nice, wonderful analogy. In our childhood, I don't know, in these days, children don't get those. We used to get a sweet during Shankranti, especially. It is like it sometimes it is made up of some giraffe or some hen or a cock. It's all made up of sugar, but the formers are like that. Whether you eat from the tail or you eat from the anyway, it's all sweet only. So Bhagavatam is full of sweetness. So these verses, which are externally seem to be not directly describing Krishna, but since they are in the Bhagavatam, even that is full of nectarian pastimes of Krishna. Now, in the Bhagavatam, if you see, there is in the second canto, there is a verse. Let me give the number of the verse, and a beautiful verse, and our scholars, brahmacharis can memorize this verse even. I'm becoming old, my memory is going down. So that is 2 point, second canto, 7th chapter, 53rd verse. Those of you the computer can just open and see. 2:753. Since you asked about the universal form, creation, etc. Mayam varnayato mushya ishwarasyanamoditah shrunvatah shraddhaya nityam mayayatmana muhyati. Now, just see, the Lord's activities in association with the different energies should be described, appreciated, and heard in accordance with the teachings of the Supreme Lord. If this is done regularly with devotion and respect, one is sure to get the energy of the Lord. Oh, the answer to your question is right here, 2.7.53. Mayam varnayato mushyaha ishwarasyanamodita. Now, Anumodita has got many meanings. One of the meanings, as given in the literal meaning, is as described by the Supreme Lord, as accepted by the Supreme Lord, as perceived by the Supreme Lord, or that thing which is going to be leading us to the Supreme Lord. So, all these things. So, Krishna's pastimes with Maya. Which Maya? Mahamaya. Krishna's pastimes with Yogamaya. That is dance, and all these things, Krishna stealing butter. All these things are Krishna's pastimes with Yogamaya. And Krishna's pastimes, Mahamaya, is his creation. But from Krishna's point of view, there is only one Maya. Yogamaya and Mahamaya is different for us because we are conditioned. But for Krishna, both are same. Everything is spiritual. That is why one, Shrunvataha Shraddha Nityam. If somebody hears Shraddhaya with great faith, Nityam always. Now here the last line says, Maya Atmana Muhyati. He will not be bewildered by Maya. So those descriptions in Bhagavatam, I cannot give a very logical answer to it, but I can only tell you that the way creation has been described in the Bhagavatam, that leads to Krishna Prema. The very nature is like that. How is it? That is only out of experience. There is no logical, neither a analytical answer to it. Because, like, if I tell you Rasgulla, what logic is there in describing the sweetness of Rasgulla? There is no logic. You cannot logically explain the sweetness of Rasgulla until you taste it, you just explain it. That's all. The same way. Because Vyasa, Bhakti Yogena Manasi Samyak Pranite Amale Pashat Purusham Purnam Atmanam Tada Mayam Chitabashrayam. Vyasa spoke Bhagavatam or wrote Bhagavatam where Bhakti Yogena Manasi. What is that Bhakti Yoga? Which Bhakti Yoga? Bhakti Yogena Manasi Samyak Pranitehi Amale. Amale means pure devotional service. And Srila Jiva Goswami says it is Krishna Prema. Vyasa was drowned in Krishna Prema and spoke Bhagavatam. And in that, the descriptions, the universal form, is also coming from Krishna Prema, so that lead to Krishna Prema. Because when a Bhagavata, when a devotee who has studied Bhagavatam, when he hears Krishna creating this world, he feels, oh, my Krishna has kept so much sweetness in water. My Krishna has put so much of technology in ether. My Krishna has made this world so wonderful. So that is how a Krishna premi, one who has love for Krishna, sees matter as my Krishna's technology. So Hamapsa Kaunteya, when he drinks water, oh, my Krishna has kept so much sweetness in water. So it is consciousness. When you see those verses in the Bhagavatam, because we have not developed Krishna Prema, we are not able to understand. But those who have developed Krishna Prema by studying the Bhagavatam, when they see the verses, it will be like that. They'll experience it. So I cannot really explain more about this thing. If you can get what I wanted to tell, very good. Otherwise, what I can do. Now, next question. There's this kind of exclusive glorification. Where did it go? Does this kind of exclusive glorification compulsory for a devotee to write literature in the current days? Oh, you asked very. See, when you say a devotee, the word devotee, what does it mean? There are many levels of devotees with different levels of consciousness and different purposes in their consciousness. When you say a pure devotee, yes, a pure devotee can give a commentary on a newspaper based on Bhagavad Siddhanta. And a person who is not a devotee, who is not really fixed up in Bhagavata understanding, he may write something. It may be seem to very devotional, but not very appropriate. Like, there are so many subject matters, sociology, economics, different subject matters. Of course, since we are in the preaching movement, we are supposed to give some spiritual understanding of spiritual perception to this. For example, now coronavirus is going on. Now you have to give a spiritual understanding of the current issues, current things. Definitely, if your consciousness is firmly based on Bhagavata, you can give on this, but at the same time you should be very careful. You cannot be dragged out into not saying so many things, some different scriptures. Especially a devotee is the right person whose mind is fixed in Srimad Bhagavatam, the right person to give the perfect commentary onto all the other subject matters. Uh, in the Bhagavatam, you have some cultural aspect, the economic aspect of it, but you are the highest thing is Krishna Prema, and from that perspective, the economy of the country, economy, the culture of the place, it's all fine. It can be done. It's a very way, means I don't say vague, it is a broad question if you asked. If anything very specific about it, that we can discuss later. Yeah, that is true. Also, things like Ayala Gita, it is all there in Bhagavatam. That's fine. If Bhagavatam is free from dharma, artha, kam, moksha, then why there is Phalashruti given after every chapter? Oh, that is also was mentioned for many years. When I asked one of my teachers, and he told it is just to attract those people who are conditioned for moksha to Bhagavatam. But in Bhagavatam, very just for the sake of telling, that's all. That is not the main subject. That is not the main Phalashruti. Even if you see the Phalashruti is a Bhagavatam, Shruti Phala means by hearing what Phala you're going to get. Krishna Prema Labeta Shigram. You will get Krishna Prema. Your mind will be fixed up in Vasudeva. One point at least will be there in that. Other things are secondary. Like the second verse of Bhagavatam, Dharma Projita Kaitavotra Paramo, Nirmatsaranam Sutam Vedyam Vasam Uttravasya Shivadam Tapatrayod Mulanam, Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunikrite Kimma Prairishwaraha. In that there are two Shruti Phalas being described. One is Tapatrayon Mulanam, other is Hridi Avardyate. Krishna will be bound in your heart. Just by hearing Bhagavatam, Krishna will come and sit in your heart and get bound in your heart. So the secondary Shruti Phala is that Tapatrayon Mulanam. All the Tapatrayas will go away. But now the understanding which was given to me when I asked the question was that whenever there is secondary Shruti Phalas are there, it is to be understood that it is nothing but the glorification of Bhagavatam. Like I'll tell you and give you an example. Now, a devotee is going around Tulasi Parikrama every day in the morning. He says, Yani kani cha papani brahmatyadikani cha tani tani pranashyanti pradakshana pade pade. We are chanting every day. Now, there are two ways you can perceive this verse. One is, oh, by going around Tulasi, all my papas will go away. By going around Tulasi, all my papas, even Brahmahatya will go away. Okay, this is one way. Other is, while going around Tulasi Parikrama, Tulasi, you are so glorious. Your glory is so much. Just putting it away every step, even Brahmahatya will go away. Just see the same verse when chanted by a Smartha, he is thinking of by doing so, my papas will go away. By a devotee, when he does in a Bhagavata, does parikrama, he is glorifying Tulasi. So, in the same way, Bhagavatam gives you the consciousness, this kind of consciousness, devotee consciousness, Krishna Prema consciousness, that this Bhagavatam, this chapter, is so glorious just by hearing that so many papas will go away. It is equal to more than performing 1,000 Ashwamedha Yajnas. So devotee takes it in the mood of glorification rather than a benefit of that. It is not actually benefit, it is a glorification. So this kind of understanding Bhagavatam gives. The question you asked, I answered this because I read Bhagavatam answering like that. Otherwise, it has been some smartha. You would say, yes, read this chapter. That is why we don't use Bhagavatam for delivering Brahma Rakshasas, for giving moksha for Pitrus. But the Smartas, they use Bhagavatam. If some, by normal Shraddha, if the Pitrus are not getting delivered, then Bhagavatam, they are using Bhagavatam to deliver the Pitrus. But we don't do that. Give you example. Bhagavat Mahima, it talks about the story of Gokarna and Dundubi, you know very well, Dundukari. But no Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharya has spoken about this story. So it is in the scripture. Why? Because Bhagavatam's glory is in Bhagavatam itself. So the story of Dundukari, which comes in the Puranas, we don't use that. We don't have Bhagavad Katha where all the Pitru's photographs are there, grandfather, great grandfather's photographs are there, and one Brahmin is sitting, eating pan, and that kind of poti we don't do. Why we don't do? Though Bhagavatam gives Krishna Prema, they are using it for moksha, not the ultimate moksha. They are using for moksha from Preta Yoni, moksha from Brahma Rakshasas. Of course, 1,000 rupees note has got 100 rupees also. You can use it, but we don't use it because Bhagavatam gives you the highest. If it is giving the highest, the lower things are also there in Bhagavatam. So in this way, Shrutis are there in the Bhagavatam as glorification of Bhagavatam, glorification of Krishna, glorification of Bhakti, because Bhakti gives the phala of karma, jnana and yoga, but without Bhakti, karma, jnana and yoga cannot give their own phalas, cannot give their own results. For that purpose, the Shruti phalas are there. Okay. Prabhuji, from 1.4.19, you explained nicely about Chatur Hotram, Hota, Brahma, Uddata, Advaya. So where does Ritvik? These are 4 kinds of Ritviks. Ritvika means Brahmana who is officiating the priest. So there are 4 kinds of Ritviks. Ritvik is actually a representative to whom you give authority for performing the yajna. So he becomes your representative. You are the Yajman, and he's a Purohita. You authorize him because when you do any karma, I have a lot of experience of doing so many karmas, right from childhood, sitting in so many yajnas. In the beginning, Sankalpa, you take Sankalpa, and then you offer. He says, you hold like this, and then you offer to the Brahmin. Says, by the time you should say, I don't know how to perform, you know how to perform. So I am offering to this Brahmin who is actually coming in this Gota, this Sharma, I am going to offer. Please take this thing and you do the karma on my behalf, and you give the phala to me. In exchange of phala, I will give you dakshana. This is what happens. To whom he represents in yajna, or it can be represented 4 categories. Is there any mention of Ritvik actually carrying out yajna like so many? Every yajna, Ritvik means actually representative. I don't know, both comes from R. English comes from Sanskrit. Ritvika. Ritvika means representative of the Yajaman. That's all. Okay. 2.7.53. Is it that because everything is on the absolute platform and Bhakti is also an absolute level, he is not illusion because his consciousness is fully purified? Yes, in one sense it is true. Everything is absolute. From the point of view of Krishna, everything is absolute. Maya Atmana Muhyati. That is why Krishna's pastimes with Maya is also spiritual. So Maya is not spiritual. Krishna's pastimes with Maya is spiritual. That is what is understanding. Next. So yesterday, while answering a question, you spoke on taking guidance of temple president. The spiritual master is not directly. I wish to know, can the faith be institutionalized? If a body of authorized members choose someone as leader, can we demand faith from everyone on the leader? I feel that faith is inspirational, not institutional, or can be popularized by votes. Kindly, can you throw some light on this aspect? Yes, faith cannot be institutional. Otherwise, we become Christians. Sometimes there is a tendency of institutionalizing faith because some of Prabhupada went and preached in the West, and many with the Christian background got into the movement. And there is a tendency, but we should be very careful. Faith cannot be institutionalized. It is not Sanatana Dharma. It is not Vedic. Veda gives the choice of every individual to accept inspiration from someone, but institution plays a role. in propagating Krishna consciousness, because Prabhupada said institution is a necessary evil. Now, who established this institution? Srila Prabhupada. So your faith can be on anyone who inspires you in serving the institution. But when you are serving, you have to be cooperative with those who are in the institution. So you can have your spiritual inspiration from anybody, like 24 gurus, spiritual inspiration from water, from mountain, from a prostitute. You can take spiritual inspiration, but dedication, commitment is for institution. So many devotees are asking this question, essentially the same question in different ways for past 3-4 years, more and more. My answer has always been the same. You can derive inspiration from anyone, but that inspiration will be directed for your dedication and service for the institution, because this institution is established by Srila Prabhupada, and he is ultimately the inspiration for everyone. So in this way, all inspirations should be directed towards a dedication towards the institution. So you cannot institutionalize inspiration, but inspiration should be for the dedication towards the institution, because institution is expansion of our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. I hope I have expressed my thing, my view about this thing. Now, other sampradayas who don't have Bhagavatam as a main book instead of other scriptures, still they achieve love of God. And to even Madhurya Rasa, as in Kumara, Rudra Sampradaya, Sri and Madhva also have Krishna as the goal. Some people who can't accept pure devotional service directly, so then can because they all accept Vishnu Supreme Lord, and okay. The four sampradayas. I hope this is the answer you are asking me. So these are the four sampradayas. Is audio clear? Hare Krishna. Am I clear? Yes. So we have the four sampradayas. See, these four sampradayas are called Vaishnava sampradayas, and they are called Vaishnava sampradayas because I hope I am answering the question of the sampradayas. So these four sampradayas are called Vaishnava sampradayas because they all accept Vishnu as Krishna and Supreme Lord, and they all accept bhakti as a means to attain him, and they also accept that one has to accept one of the acharyas in the four sampradayas. There are certain basic terms which are common terms, but there are differences. in differences is difference in the goal. Yes, there is a differences. I have traveled to all the four sampradayas and been Madhva by birth and studied a lot of Shiva Vaishnavism. There's a lot of difference in their philosophy also, because all of them perceive Krishna according to their own perception. Like Balam, Neela, Manim, when you see a money, beautiful jewel or a stone, precious stone, four people sitting in four corners describe same different ways. And because they are described in different ways because their goals are different. And all are bhakti. It's not that they are not bhakti. If you see, when they argue among themselves, when Madhva scholar, when they argument, you come to know that they are bringing out so many points to defeat Sri Sampradaya. Sri Sampradaya scholars defeat Madhva Sampradaya. The same story, for example, the story of Vayu and Sesha. When Madhva Sampradaya describes the story, they highlight the glory of Vayu more than Sesha. Sesha means Ananta Sesh. When the Sri Sampradaya is described, they glorify Ananta and put Vayu little bit in a lower position. So, it's very mystical. Same Ramayana you take. When you same section of Ramayana, when the Sri Sampradaya scholar describes, he describes as glorifying Lakshmana because he is Ananta, because Ananta is everything for them. And here, the Madhva Sampradayas, they talk about Hanuman's glory. Of course, both of them glorify each other, but when it comes to highlight, they have a tinge of affection for Hanuman. Then they just go to all the scriptures to find out how Hanuman is Madhva, and it is truth also. So in this way, there are differences. It is not that there is no difference at all. To such an extent, I'll tell you, there was a court case by the Nimbarakas, because they are also worshipping Radha Krishna. They worship Radha Krishna. We also worship Radha Krishna. And they put a court case saying that Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they stole our philosophy and then they call themselves a separate sampradaya. Then one of the disciples of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wrote a letter in Sanskrit. Why you want to go to a court? You should have first spoken to me. I would have explained to you the difference. And he explained the difference between the Nimbaraka way of worshipping Radha Krishna and the Gaudiya way of worshipping Radha Krishna. And of course, the Nimbaraki sannyasi who actually put a court case, he is a great scholar, very humble person. So he withdrew the court case, accepting, yes, there is a difference. When the Bhagavatam is spoken by a Madhva scholar, when a Bhagavatam is spoken by the Gaudiya, you find there is a difference. What is the difference? That it's a long time to really make a person understand. For that, you should know what the Madhva philosophy is. When the Bhagavatam is spoken by Sri Vaishnava and a Madhva, different. What to speak of that? The Madhva Sampradaya version of Bhagavatam is also different. They don't accept the Sridhariya Pantha. Ours is Sridhariya Pantha. Sridhariya means Sridhara Swami, whatever edition of Bhagavatam is, which he commented on, we accept it. To such an extent, the 14th chapter of Bhagavatam, the 13th and the 14th chapter of Bhagavatam, Brahma Vimohan Leela, is not accepted by the Madhvas. So, that doesn't mean that they are not Vaishnavas. That doesn't mean we are some superior Vaishnavas. Not like that. Variety is always there. Variety is spice. If you don't have variety, then how? Krishna has variety. Its own way of having different sects of Vaishnavas. And within the Gaudiya only, you have different flavors in Vaishnavism. So it's a vast subject matter. Your question itself is very vast. And this is one thing. That is what I can explain to the first question. If you ask me what are the differences, there are plenty of differences. I don't say differences, variety of Krishna. But Anarpita Charim Charat, remember this verse. Anarpita charinchirat karunayavatirna kalo samarpayit unnato jalasam swabhakti shiryam haripurta sundarjuti kadamba sandivitaha sada hriday kandare spuratu sachinandanaha. This verse is a solution to your question. Anarpita charinchirat. What no other incarnation, no other saint has offered, that is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered us. That is Unnata Ujjvala Rasam, that prema. Prema Pumarthamada Mahan. That is hidden in Bhagavatam. So the voltage in which is Bhagavatam is spoken, voltage in with which the Bhagavatam is spoken, in the Gaudiya line, nowhere it is spoken. Nowhere. No other sampradaya it is spoken. It is accepted by even the sampradaya scholars. Madhva sampradaya scholars, they are clearly accepted. The way Gaudiya people speak Bhagavatam, we cannot. Our scholarship cannot reach to the ecstasy in which the Gaudiyas describe Bhagavatam. I can only tell this much. Otherwise, it's a very interesting subject matter. You brought four sampradayas into the question mark in the question area. In that question, you had one more section. I don't know. It is not seen here. Can you retype that question so that I'll finish that question? There were two sections in that. Whoever was it? The sampradaya question was. I am deeply appreciate the point you just made that some people who can't accept the pure devotion service directly, so that they can SB section to be told to recite with fulfill their material desires as per the Falashruti mentioned in Bhagavatam. We do that. We should not. But emergency circumstances, instead of they going here and there for a temporary purpose, you can, but you should not. You cannot. You can, but first I'll say you should not. Seeing that person's position as a preacher, may do it. There is always a small flexibility given. You may do it, but this is not what is pure devotional service recommending. But we are dealing with all kinds of people. We are Prabhupada dealt with drunkards, and we are also dealing with congregation. There may be the man in the house, he may be pure devotee, but what about a small girl will come and say, Prabhuji, please bless me, I want to get good marks in the examination. Say, follow pure devotional service. What it is, nothing to do. What happened? I also got good marks. That's of no use. You'll tell like that or what? So for that sake, okay, beta, you do study the story of a Jamil. It is you, but that is not the process. Our process is not this. So if somebody wants to surrender, or in the process of surrender, you don't recommend to them. But as a yukti to get connected, to connect people to Krishna, yena kena prakarena mana Krishna tasmat kinapyupayena. It is upaya, but it is not a upaya which is in the forefront of your preaching. It is a upaya in the background of your preaching. That's all. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur read the SB verse, the ghost sent by, yeah, it is a rare occasion. It is a very, very rare occasion. It is not that tomorrow you go and recite Bhagavatam to burst the ghost. You don't become a ghost burst by studying Bhagavatam, by reading Bhagavatam. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had that power and faith in the Bhagavatam to do that. So it is not a system that tomorrow onwards you say, for delivering yourself from the ghost, or to somebody has done some black magic on you and you want to deliver that, we can use Bhagavatam. Then you will have a big lie in front of you, especially these days. A lot of people are there haunted by ghosts, and preaching will be aside. So you should be very careful. It's only yukti. That's all. Yukti means some kind of a plan, upaya to get them connected to Krishna. But for a person who is surrendered on the process, not. Of course, I don't want to get into this ghost haunted and all these things. We can say it's a big subject matter. A lot of controversies are there in it. Bhaktivinoda Thakur did it. So tomorrow somebody's house there's a ghost, they'll call you and do kirtan, the ghost will go away. Oh, if you do that, the ghost will come into you and the ghost will go away from their house and come into your consciousness. Be very careful. Bhakti Thakur and Bhakti Thakur, they are actually doing kirtan. They do, when they do kirtan, Krishna is there. When we do kirtan, I don't know. Krishna will be thinking, should I go or not? Anyhow, it depends on the purity of the person also. It is not just the name. The person who is chanting the name, his purity, his power also is also a consideration in that. It is not just chanting, it is not just Bhagavatam. The Bhagavata, the chanter, also his potency also is a factor in it. So I don't want to get into that in a public forum. Okay, we stop here for this question and answer session. Then we go to the next verse. Next. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abadhavatyapi namanyanantasya yashonkitanyat shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadhavaha. Now the negative version is spoken and the positive version is spoken about the about Krishna Katha, the glory of Krishna Katha. That means the words which are not decorated by Krishna Katha, that is a negative way of describing the glory of Krishna Katha. The positive way of describing the glory of Krishna Katha is this thing: Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo. Janata aga viplavaha. Those of you who have not memorized this verse till now, it's high time that you memorize this verse, because this verse is a prediction of ISKCON in Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam predicts that ISKCON will be established in future. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo sintishlokam abhavatyapi amananantasya yashonkitanyat shanvanti gayanti grinanti sadhavaha. Tad vag visargaha. The nature of Krishna's pastimes are, they are visarga. And what is the meaning of visarga? Visarga means they are beyond this creation. Sarga means this creation. Visarga means they are beyond this material creation. They are from the spiritual world. They are not material in nature. That is the meaning of the word visarga. So if you see the translation by Srila Prabhupada, he says visarga means creation. Tadvag visargaha, creation janataga. On the other hand, literature which are full of descriptions, translation, glories, name, pastimes, in Supreme Lord, are of is of a different creation. That means they are not of this material world. They are the spiritual world. Tadvag visargo, what they do? Janata aghaviplavaha. They bring a revolution in the sinful life of the people. Yeah, this is the first proof that Narada has predicted Bhagavatam will be translated into English and it will be taken to America and it will be distributed around the world. First proof. What is the first proof? Janata aga viplavaha. Generally, after Vyasa wrote Bhagavatam, how many sinful people read Bhagavatam? Hardly anyone. Even though a sinful person have read, it may be on the finger count. You can count them. Only few sinful people must have read Bhagavatam. Generally, pious people must have read Bhagavatam, were reading Bhagavatam, and of course, many people got delivered. So, sinful people, not one or two in number. Viplava means revolution. Revolution cannot happen by one or two people. Revolution means a whole lot of people create revolution. 5-6 people are there. They cannot call, oh, they have created revolution. No, revolution means there's a mass effect. That means thousands and thousands of sinful people must have studied Bhagavatam, and there should have been a revolutionary effect in their sinful life. That means a person must be a cow eater, cow meat eater. Now he is not eating even onion garlic. A person must be 24 hours into intoxication. Now he is not even taking tea, coffee. Not one or two people like that. Thousands of people should have experienced this effect. When did it happen in the past 5,000 years? Tell me. It did not happen. It happened only after Srila Prabhupada translated Srimad Bhagavatam and went to America. So this is the first prediction. Somebody say, "Oh, we don't accept this thing. It is all you're concocting your own. It is just a concoction." No, I'll give you another proof. Yasmin pratishlokam abhaddavatyapi. Abhadda means what? In Telugu language, abhadda means lies. Of course, here abhadda means improperly composed. Improperly composed. That is, when Prabhupada translated Srimad Bhagavatam, English was not his first language. Though Prabhupada's English was very good, but he also accepted many times that there are so many grammatical mistakes which he has done. Of course, when you put Sanskrit into English, Prabhupada used very, very innovative terms. Even Shakespeare could not contemplate about, could not even imagine that kind of terms. Infinitesimal, part and parcel, material world. There are certain words which are never used in the English language before. Srila Prabhupada used them. And in the purport of these words, I'm going to read Srila Prabhupada's heart. Last paragraph of this purport. We are sure, therefore, that everyone in the human society will welcome Srimad Bhagavatam, even though it is now presented with so many faults. I'm repeating. Even though it is presented with so many faults. Abhaddavadyapi, abhaddhavatyapi, for it is recommended by Narada, who has very kindly appeared in this chapter. Now, if you see, for it is recommended by Narada. What Narada has recommended? The Bhagavatam which has been presented now. Read the paragraph again. We are sure, therefore, that everyone in the human society will welcome Srimad Bhagavatam, even though presented with so many faults, for it is recommended by Narada. Here, when Srila Prabhupada is writing, for it is recommended by Narada, is referring to which Bhagavatam? The Bhagavatam which Srila Prabhupada is translated with so many faults. Even though presented with so many faults, was kindly appeared in fact. That means Srila Prabhupada is telling in this purport, it took about 2 days of just only reading this particular line. It was all before I joined ISKCON, not after joined ISKCON. Before I joined ISKCON, I was just reading this Bhagavatam. 2 days I just read this particular paragraph, 2 lines, that's all. For 2 days constantly, hours together. We are sure, therefore, that everyone in the human society will welcome Srimad Bhagavatam, even though it is not presented, so even though it is now presented with so many faults, for it is recommended by Narada, who has very kindly appeared in this chapter. So, what else you want? This is the verse which predicts the appearance of Bhagavatam second time by Srila Prabhupada. Namani, again, third proof, he says, Namani anantasya shomkitani shanvanti gayanti grinanti sadavaha. Then, go to the purport, where Srila Prabhupada talks about where is this? Where did it go? Yeah. Okay, let me read the entire purport. It is the qualification of the great thinker to pick up the best even from the worst. It is said that the intelligent man should pick up nectar from a stalk of poison, should accept gold even from filthy place, should accept good and qualified wife from an obscure family, and should accept a good lesson from a man or a teacher, from a teacher who comes from the untouchables. There's there are some of the ethical instructions for everyone in every place without exception. But a saint is far above the level of ordinary man. He is always absorbed in glorification of Supreme Lord because of broadcasting the holy name and fame of Supreme Lord. The polluted atmosphere of this world will change, and as a result of propagating the transliteratures like Srimad Bhagavatam, people will become sane in their transactions. So while preparing this commentation of the particular strands of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have a crisis before us. Our neighboring friend China has attacked the border of India with a materialistic spirit. We have practically no business in political field. Yet we see that previously there was both China and India both lived peacefully for centuries without ill feeling. The reason is that they lived in those days in the atmosphere of God consciousness. And every country all over the surface of the world were God-fearing, pure-hearted, and simple. There's no question of political diplomacy. There's no cause of uh, quarrel between two countries, China and India, or over the land which is not very suitable for habitation. And certainly there is no cause for fighting over the issue. But due to uh, the age of quarrel, Kali, which we have discussed, there is always a chance of quarrel of slight provocation. It's not due to the issue of, this is not to the issue in question, but to the polluted atmosphere of the age. Systematically, there is a propaganda by a section of people to stop glorification of name and fame of Supreme Lord. Therefore, there is a great need for decimating the message of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. The duty of every responsible Indian, oh, because Prabhupada wrote when he was actually in India, this first canto. Every duty, a responsible, every Indian to broadcast the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the world to the supermost good as well as uh, good, as well as to bring about the desired peace in the world. Because India has failed in her duty by neglecting this responsible work, there is so much quarrel and trouble in all over the world. He says it is because India neglected, there is trouble around the world. If you take up, then the trouble is solved around the world. We are confident that if the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam is received only by the leading men of the world, certainly there will be a change of heart, and naturally the people in general will follow them. The mass of people in general are tools in the hands of the modern politicians and leaders, people. If there's a change of heart of the leaders only, certainly there will be radical change in the atmosphere of the world. We know that our honest attempt, I want to read this thing. We know that our honest attempt to present this great literature, conveying the transcendental message for reviving the God consciousness, the people in general, and re-spiritualizing the world atmosphere is fought with many difficulties. Our presenting this matter in adequate language, especially matter inadequate language, especially foreign language, will certainly fail, and there will be so many literary discrepancies despite our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. But we are sure that with all our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration, and the leaders of the society will accept this due to its being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty. So the third point here is what? Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadhavaha. We are sure that the leaders of the society will accept this, Shrinvanti Gayanti Sadhavaha, and take into consideration that this will still accept it due to its being the most honest attempt to glorify the Almighty. When there is fire in the house, inmates of the house go out to get help from the neighbors who may be foreigners. And yet, without knowing the language, the victim of the fire expresses themselves. And the neighbors understand the need, even though not expressed in the same language. So this shows Bhagavatam is not a language. Veda is not a language. Big subject matter. Somebody says, if anybody says Veda is Sanskrit, they don't know. Veda is not Sanskrit. It is Shabda. Veda is sound. When it so used to happen, Srila Prabhupada used to give Hindi class. His disciples would not sit in the class, they would be doing some other seva here and then going. And Prabhupada said, yes, come and sit. They would say, oh, we don't understand Bengali, we don't understand Hindi. And Prabhupada said, it doesn't matter whether you understand or not, you hear the sound vibration. Hmm. Even though not expressed in the same language, the same spirit of cooperation is needed to broadcast the transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the polluted atmosphere of the world. Same spirit is required. Whether you know or don't know, just express. Just express your Bhagavatam, express your love of God in whatever way you want. There may be some discrepancies, no problem. It doesn't matter. After all, it is a technical science of spiritual values, and thus we are concerned with the technique and not about the language. If the techniques of this great literature are understood by people of the world, there will be success. So, 3 proofs. Number 1, Janataga Viplava. Only ISKCON could do it. ISKCON Bhagavatam by Prabhupada's Bhagavatam is full of mistakes. What mistakes? Not technical mistakes, but language, linguistics, definitely. Number 3, many mistakes are there, many linguistic mistakes. Prabhupada told edit also. That is why there is a BBT of editing mission going on. There is a controversy in that also. We are very good in creating controversies. Prabhupada was a person who cleared all the controversies, and we are very expert in creating controversies. And third one, Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinanti. Sadhava leaders are accepting. Earlier, who was reading Bhagavatam? Some sadhu, some mata, somewhere. Oh, reading Bengal. Ram Gaudiya Mat is reading. But now the leaders around the world are using Bhagavatam. What to speak of other leaders of the society? I know many spiritual leaders of other organizations studying our Srimad Bhagavatam and then giving classes based on our Srimad Bhagavatam. They are Mayavadis too. I know minimum 4 spiritual leaders of different organizations. They read Prabhupada's Bhagavatam every day, and then because they have to take a class, what they have to give some talk. How will they talk? What will they talk on? They are talking from Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam. Srinvanti Gayanti Ganti Sadavaha. So, the positive side of the description of this glorification of Lord pastimes are described here. Very beautiful verse. Tadvag Visarga. These words, Bhagavatam is not actually, or the description of Supreme Lord is not belonging to this world. Number 1. Number 2, Jagata Agaviplavaha. It can create a revolution in the sinful life of the people. Even though there may be discrepancy in grammatical or literary discrepancies may be there, but still, since it is Namanyantasya Shonkitanyat, since the descriptions are dedicated to glorification of the Supreme Lord, Ishonkitanyat, Shrinvanti Gayanti Gnanti Sadhavaha. The devotees hear, and after hearing, they sing, and after singing, they hear again, Grinanti. If there is a chance, they hear. If there is a chance, they speak. When they find somebody speaking, they hear. If somebody is not speaking, they speak. And somebody is already speaking and hearing, they go and sit there. In this way, this Bhagavatam is so wonderful. Now, what to speak of Krishna Katha is so glorious, even. The work offered to Krishna is glorious. And that work which is not offered to Krishna, that means that work which doesn't have bhakti in it, that is useless. Naishkarmamapyachyuta bhava varjitam na shobhate jnanamalam niranjanam kuta puna shashvata bhadrameshware na charpitam karma yadyapyakaranam. So, Naishkarmyam. What is the meaning of that? Naishkarmyam. Naishkarmyam means that knowledge which leads to self-realization. That is called Naishkarmyam. Just imagine the knowledge which leads to self-realization. If it is Achyuta Bhava Varjitam, if it doesn't have bhakti in it, Achyuta Bhava Varjitam, Nashobate, it is not very glorious. Jnanam alam niranjanam, Nashobate jnanam alam niranjanam. Even though it is transcendental knowledge, but it is of no use. If knowledge without bhakti is useless, in what to speak of karma? Kuta punaha shashvat abhadramishware na charpitam karma yadyapyakaranam. Karma yadyapi akaranam. Though the karma is non-fruitive, that means you are doing activities without any expectation of results, even though you are doing that. But if it doesn't have Achyuta Bhava in it, there is no use of it. If that is the case with the work which is done without any motive, what to speak of the work which is done with desires? So that is the meaning of this verse. So let me just read the purport. As referred to above, not only ordinary literatures devoid of transcendental glorification of the Lord are condemned, but also Vedic literatures and speculation on the subject of impersonal Brahman when they are devoid of devotional service. When speculation on the impersonal Brahman is condemned on the above grounds, then want to speak of ordinary fruitive work which is not meant to fulfill the aim of devotional service. Such speculative knowledge and fruitive work cannot lead one to the goal of perfection. Fruitive work, in which almost all people in general are engaged, is always painful, either in the beginning or at the end. It can be fruitful only when made subservient to devotional service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita also, it is confirmed that the result of such fruitive work may be offered for the service of the Lord. Otherwise, it leads to material bondage. We know this verse very well. That is, Yajnarthat karmanonyatra lokoyam karmavandana. The bona fide enjoyer of the fruity work is personality of Godhead. And thus, when it is engaged for the sense gratification of the living being, it becomes acute source of trouble. So, somebody may think he is liberated soul, or he is liberated also. But if he doesn't have Achyuta Bhava, then he'll offend and he'll come back to the material world, material platform. So, there is a description in the scriptures. Somebody may be a liberated soul. He say, I am liberated. And it so happens that he, in front of him, Jagannath Rath Yatra is going on, or some Rath Yatra is going. And he thinks, I am liberated soul. Why I should go? Why I should do this bhakti of going behind the Rath? You know what is going to happen to him? He'll become a Brahma Rakshasa. He'll fall down. Even though he is a liberated soul, because of offending the Supreme Lord, he'll fall down. That is why, you know it very well. There is a beautiful verse which says that Aruhya Krichena Param Padam Pataha Patantyado Anadrutaha Yushvadangrayaha. Anadruta, because of offending, not having respect for the Supreme Lord, what happens is that he falls down in spite of he attaining the highest stage of liberation. So these are the verses which actually glorifies the bhakti of the Lord. And we'll go to the next verse. I was thinking of clearing more verses. Aho Mahabhaga Bhavan Namo Gadrik Suche Shrava Satyarato Yadavratah Urukramasya Kila Bandhamuktaye Samadhinanusparat Vicheshtitam. Now, this verse is giving instruction. Narada is giving instruction to Vyasa. What is that instruction? Samadhinanusmara tad vicheshtitam. So therefore, what you're supposed to do is you go into samadhi. Go into samadhi. That is why hearing this instruction of Narada, Vyasa goes to samadhi. Where if you go to the 7th chapter, there Vyasa, second verse. Brahmanadyam saraswatyam ashramaha paschime dade samyaprase iti prokta rishim satra vardhanaha. So, samyaprasa, Vyasa, what did he do? Tasmin swashrame Vyaso badari sandamandite asino upasprashya pranidhato manaswayam. He concentrated his mind on the Supreme Lord. Then, bhakti manasi sampranite male apashyat purushampurnam. All these things Vyasa he did because, especially meditating on the absolute truth, he did because in the 13th verse of the 5th chapter, in this verse, what we are doing now, Narada told Samadhi Nanuspara. Narada says to Vyasa, oh my dear Vyasa, what do you do? Ato Mahabhaga. Ato means that is why. After speaking 3 verses on the glorification of the Supreme Lord, and after talking about the reason for his dissatisfaction, he says Ato, that is why. That means he has concluded one section here. Oh Mahabhaga, just imagine, he has depressed Vyasa like anything. Now he's encouraging now. After writing all the Vedic literatures, calling them, after writing all the Puranas, calling them as Vayasam Kirtam, and saying that you are depressed because of that, and you have to write a new book. He's trying to, you see, now, what is this? Vyasa did not say like that. Narada says, Ato Mahabhaga, he's encouraging him. You are highly fortunate. Bhavan Amogadrik. Amogadrik. It is not that what you have written is totally useless. Whatever you have written in the Vedas and Puranas, if it has brought you to this point of Bhagavatam, then it is useful. If it has not brought you to this point of Bhagavatam, they are useless. So, Amoghadrik, definitely your vision is Amogha. It doesn't have any, you have perfect vision. Suchishrava. And not only that, your character is very pure. I saw. When I came, you're sincerely contemplating, you're sincerely introspecting. Shrujishrava. Satyarato. Satyarataha. You are established in truth. You are having no diplomacy. So you know, I want to know the truth. That you though you have written so much of Vedic literature, but still you're searching for the truth. You're established in truth. Satyarataha. Then Dridhavrataha. Dridhavrataha. You are so determined in all your vows. It is not that you wrote some half of Vedanta Sutras, something here casually did not. You very sincerely wrote all those things. You are Dridhavrata. Satyarato Dridhavrataha. Guru Kramasya Kilabandha Muktaye. Thus, because of that, you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance. What is the trance? 7th chapter, 3rd verse. Bhakti Yogena Manasi. 3rd and 4th verse. Go, if you see that. Bhakti Yogena Manasi. That is trance. You can think of the past tense. Actually, it is think means here see actually. Think of the past tense of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people in general from material bondage. Urukramasya Akila Vanda Muttaye. Akila. For everyone who is bound, to liberate them. What did you do? Samadhinanusmara tadvicheshchitam. Tadvicheshchitam. All the pastimes of Krishna, it will automatically manifest your mind. You just go and then see. That is what is being told. Akila Bandha Muktaye. Okay, let me read the purport. Beautiful purports. The second paragraph. There are thousands and thousands of literary men all over the world, and they have created many, many thousands of literary works for the information of people in general of thousands and thousands of years. Unfortunately, none of them brought peace and tranquility onto this earth. This is only due to the spiritual vacuum in those literatures. Therefore, the Vedic literature, especially the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, are specifically recommended for suffering humanity to bring about the desired effect of liberation in the planks of mental civilization, which is eating the vital part of human energy. The Bhagavad Gita is the spoken message of the Lord Himself, recorded by Vyasa, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental narration of the activities of the same Lord Krishna, which alone can satisfy the hankering desire of the living beings for eternal peace and liberation from miseries. Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is meant for all living beings all over the universe for total liberation from all kinds of material bondage. Such transcendental narration of the pastimes of the Lord can be described only by liberated souls like Vyasadeva and his bona fide representatives, who are completely immersed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Only to such devotees do the pastimes of the Lord and their transcendental nature become automatically manifest by the dint of devotional service. No one else can either know or describe the acts of the Lord, even if they speculate on the subject for many, many years. The descriptions of Bhagavatam are so precise and accurate that whatever has been predicted in the great literature about 5,000 years ago is now exactly happening. Therefore, the vision of author comprehends past, present, and future. In the 12th canto, we know how everything was written. We ask what's going to happen in the age of Kali. Liberated person possesses perfect senses, and perfect senses only can serve the supreme, serve the sense proprietorship, Rishikeshan, sense proprietor, Rishikeshan, Sri Krishna personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is a perfect description of all perfect personality by the all perfect personality of Vyasaveda, the compiler. Jivrataha, Satyarataha, Jadavrataha, all these qualifications mentioned. And then Anusmara, one should remember. No. Last verse for today, that is 14th verse. तदोऽन्यदा किञ्चन यद्विवक्षतः पृथग्दृशस्तत्कृतरूपनामभिः न गर्ह्यचित् क्वापि च दुःसहिता मतिर्लभेत वाताहतनोरिवास्पदम्. Now, the negative way is telling the intelligence of the people. What happens? Tato nanyata kinchan yadvichakshaha पृथक दृशस्तत्कृतरूप नामभिः न कर्हिचित् क्वापि च दुस्सहिता मतिर् लभेत वाताहत नौरिवास्पदम्. What is the condition of those people who are not hearing Krishna Katha? Their condition is like this. Vatahata naurivaspadam, a big ocean, and there is a small boat. What is going to happen? By the winds, the boat is being dragged somewhere else. Like Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna tells the same thing, that Vayu Riva, like in Apurimana Machala Pratishtam, Samudrahapa Pravishanti, Tadvat Kamayam Parishit Sarve, Masanti Mapnodi Kama. What is that verse? It talks about boat in second chapter. In the Bhagavad Gita, let me see. Memory is going down, old age. Second chapter, text number 67. Indriyanam hicharatam yadmano vidhiyate tasya harati prajna vayur nava ivambasi. Like a vayu, wind drags away a person in the ocean. In the same way, vayu, the wind carries away that person who is attracted to the topics of things which are not connected to Krishna consciousness. That is what is mentioned. Laveta vata hata naurivaspadam. Vata hata naurivaspadam. Let me just get back to this verse. Whatever you desire to describe that is separate in the vision from the Lord simply reacts with different forms, names, and results to agitate the mind as the wind agitates a boat which has no resting place. So, O Vyasa, what all you have written till now? Somebody may say, oh, I have written all the Vedas, the Vedanta Sutras, the Mahabharata, and all the Puranas, Are they useless? They are not only useless, they are disturbing. Again, he puts a bomb. They're not only useless, but they are disturbing. How disturbing they are? Like the small boat is totally disturbed by the wind of the ocean. Because tato anyatha kinchana, anything which you describe, which is not connected to the Lord, vivakshataha, you try to describe it, pritak drishaha, with any other vision other than the Supreme Lord. Tat kritaha nam, it takes different rupa, forms, different names, namabihi. Na karichit kwapi cha dussahita matihi. It is not going to do any good to the dussahita mati, which is very wavering. It is only going to create a disturbance. Oh Vyasa, I am going to tell you something which is, don't mind. By writing the Vedic literatures, you have not done any good to the people. Because in the Vedas, you have described Ganesha, you have described the glory of Ganesha, Lord Shiva, Durga, Kartikeya, and what is going to happen is, by studying this, people are totally confused. They don't know who is God. You write one book by which they come to know who is God, at least they'll be peaceful. In the Puranas, you glorified so many people. You glorified karma, you glorified yoga, you glorified jnana, yoga. People are confused. The proof is this India, the present day India, present day religious India I'm talking about. People are totally confused. They don't know whom to worship, what to do. You go to some so-called religious place, you go to Shirdi, you'll be shocked. The kind of faith people have in that Sai Baba. And they do all kinds of bhakti. They just, somebody holds their ears and then go stand up and down, and somebody is falling on the feet, somebody is rolling on the, they put different kinds of, what is this all confusion? Because they're totally disturbed by all the descriptions what you have done. You think that you have done something very wonderful by writing the Vedic literatures, but actually you're confused people in different ways. That is why Vyasa, I please request you not to confuse people anymore. Rather, it is your responsibility now to stop all the confusions by writing Bhagavatam. But you create the confusion by writing the Vedanta Puranas. Now you remove the confusion by writing this Bhagavatam, which is perfect, which is going to give very perfect vision to the people. So this is how we come to an end for today's class, that is 14th verse. From 15th verse onwards, we'll go a little bit faster because I took very slow these verses, because most important verses from 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So these verses, if you can by heart, it is good. If you cannot by heart all the verses, at least by heart the 12th and 11th and the 12th verse, which talks about 10th and 11th verse. At least these two verses are supposed to be put into memory. That is Naidvachas Chitrapadam Hareresho, this verse, and the next verse, which is following Tadvag Visargo, these two verses. If you can put into memory, it will be very nice. Questions? Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Oh, where is it? We see that devotees mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, etc., are able to completely balance their ashram goals, varana goals, to the supreme goal. For example, we see Arjuna praying to Shivaji for his astras. Would that be an example of the line, it can be fruitful only when made subservient to devotional service of the Lord? Please clarify and how to practice this principle in the present times. Of course, in the second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, is very clearly described that if you go to this verse in the second chapter, first canto, second chapter, text number 13. Atha pumbir shreshta varnashrami bhagashah sunishchitasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. Read this verse, 13th verse. And then uh, uh, Vishwakshena Katasya Nautpadiyet Idiritim Dharma Swanishita Pumsan Vishwakshena Katasya Nautpadiyet Idiritim Shamayeva Hi Kevalam. Where is that verse? Which is the number? Dharmaha. 9th verse. Then not Dharmasya Purvasya. 8th verse. Second chapter, 8th verse. Dharma Sanachita Pumsan Vishwakshena Katasya Notpadiyeti Dhritam Shamayeva Hi Kevalam. So you read these two verses, the purports, it will become very clear for you. But since you asked the question, I'm going to answer. See, Varnashrama is material, number 1 point. Never ever think Varnashrama is spiritual. This is the biggest confusion which many people in ISKCON have. Varnashrama is spiritual, number 1. It's not spiritual, it's material. It is a material arrangement. Number 2, since it is a material arrangement, you cannot blindly reject it because we are attached. We are having attachments. Since we are having attachments to material, we have to accept Varnashrama. Because this Varnashrama, when you accept Varnashrama Dharma and practice Varnashrama Dharma, your material desires will not obstruct your spiritual growth, number 1. Number 2, it will assist you in developing affection for Krishna Katha. Because it is Sattvika, it is not Rajasika. It is not passionate. It is not in mode of goodness and passion. It is Sattvika. Because it is Sattvika, it is not going to obstruct in your spiritual life, rather it help you. But a devotee should know that the purpose of Varnashrama is to develop taste for Harikatha. If that Varnashrama is not giving you chance to hear Bhagavatam, chance to develop a taste for Bhagavatam, then what is happened? It is Vanara Shrama. You know, Vanara means monkey, Shrama means hard work, futile hard work. So, on the name of Varnashrama, don't become a Vanara Shrama. So, purpose of Varnashrama has to be understood. So, now, Arjuna praying to Lord Shiva is not just a part of Varnashrama. Varnashrama, praying to Lord Shiva is not Varnashrama. Of course, that is that was one of the Kshatriya's duty. But the term Varnashrama has a different or a different understanding in the age of Kali. In the age of Kali, you cannot be a Kshatriya purely. You cannot be a Brahmin purely. You cannot be a Vaishya purely. You cannot be a Shudra also purely. Even to be a Shudra, it's not an easy thing. You can only have the principles of Brahminical principles followed, Brahminical Kshatriya principles followed. Because there is no dharma existing in the world. There is no dharma. For example, there is a war. Now there is a nuclear war here. And Reagan, or what Reagan, I don't know what is Clinton, what is the president's name? Trump. Now Trump. He has no idea what is dharma, what is dharma yuddha. He will just press a button and the missile will come and then atom bomb will fall or some nuclear war, then everything is gone. So, we cannot copy what used to happen in the Mahabharata times because even Duryodhana had some dharma because he would not shoot an arrow in the midnight. But all the airplanes come in the midnight only to drop a bomb. So, the principles of Varnashrama Dharma can be followed, not the details. You are given one detail of Arjuna praying to Shiva is a detail, not the principle. So, the principles of Varnashrama Dharma has to be practiced, and that too because we have attachments. And if you have no attachments, then you need not. But still you practice it because in your house you may be a pure devotee, completely engrossed in Bhagavatam. What about your daughter who wants to get first prize in Bharatanatyam? What about your son who wants to who wants to play cricket, but he is standing for 4 or 5 rounds? So you have to practice some dharma in your house, though you may be a devotee. That is why Varnashram dharma is material and it has to be accepted because we are having still some attachments. And even though you may be a pure devotee, but people around you are not pure devotees. That is why Varnashrama comes into picture. But in the principal format, we have to accept it. So it is a how it should be accepted. That depends on your condition, where you are staying, what is your varna, and all so many things. It's a devotees are trying hard to make out what is varnashram dharma because they cannot reject it, they cannot accept it totally. That is why still they are confused. Of course, all knowledge comes from confusion only. So a lot of devotees having a confusion regarding this. Maybe in the next few years, I hope this confusion becomes more and more clear and things will be resolved. I don't have a very direct answer on how to practice this principle in the present moment. I can give you one line, two verses. I will not speak about the verse. 1.2.8, this verse, and 1.2.13. Read these two verses. That means if you are able to get time to read Bhagavatam, relish Bhagavatam, then whatever work you are doing, whatever principles you are doing, they are having some meaning to it. Otherwise, no meaning. At least that principle, we hold on to it for now. Since Bhagavatam is compiled by Vyasadeva, so the verses written are poetry composed by Vyasadeva, keeping the essence of the subject matter intact. It's not necessary that the same exact words, language, and meter were spoken by different characters in different pastimes. Is this understanding correct? Yes, definitely, because if you see Prahlad's prayers in Vishnu Purana, they are different from the prayers which he did in Bhagavatam. But essentially, both are having the same content, but a different intensity. When Bhagavatam, the same prayers of Prahlada, the same prayers of Bhishma, they are mentioned in the Bhagavatam, the intensity is very high. The Krishna Prema, the voltage of Krishna Prema, the voltage of Bhakti is very high. It actually surpasses all the numbers. If you have a scale, if you have a meter, it surpasses all the numbers in a measurement scale of its intensity of Krishna Prema. Definitely, because Puranas and Itihasas, the content will be the same. The Swara and Karma may change always. The number of verses may also change. And also in the Vedas, it doesn't happen. Veda means the Swara and Krama will be the same always. So what is the meaning of Amogha Drik used in 13th verse, and why this word Anusmara used in the same text? And is it in the text 14, he is using negative contaminants, and in the text 13, he is using for. Okay, yes, what you wrote is true. In text number 13, he is talking something positive, and in the 14th thing is negative, because if you see in the 9th and that he's also using negative positive here. Here in the 13th he's actually positive. He's saying that Amogha Drik. Now, what is the meaning of Amogha Drik? Because in the previous verses, Vedas have been indirectly told as Vayasam Ushanti Manasa, Vayasam Tirthamushanti Manasa. Then Vyasa was dejected. It means there is no use of Vedas, there is no use of Mahabharata, there is no use of Vedanta Sutra. No, there is some use. There is some use. That is only to make your faith in Bhagavatam stronger. That is why Amogha Drik has been used. Now, why the word Anusmara is used in the same text, and it is the 14. Samadhinan Anusmara, and This word anusmara refers to the instruction. It is instruction. Means, how will I explain? That since you are qualified, what you should do? Since you are qualified, you go to samadhi, and in that samadhi, you all the past tense will be automatically revealed. So the instruction is that you should be in samadhi. Bhakti yogena manasi, samyak praniti amale, apashyat purusham purnam. That will be natural consequence for you by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So samadhi na means what your prayasa should be samadhi, and anusmara is a revelation which is going to happen to you. It is a revelation. So that is what is the understanding. And Anarpita Charan is quoted from CC, from LC, not LC, it is CC. What not given since so long? Madhuri Rasa, Raga Bhakti is practiced in Rudra, Kumara, Pushti Marga also. Oh, let me answer this question in a small nutshell and try to finish for today. Nice question to be answered. If you see that verse, Anarpita charim chirat karunya vatirna kalo samarpayutum unnata ujjala rasam. Now it is raga. Which bhakti is it? Unnata. Unnata means we know it is Madhurya. And Ujjvala, Unnata and Ujjvala. Within that, Parakiya Rasa, Madhurya and Parakiya. And Unnata Ujjvala Rasa. Anarpita charim chirat karunya avatirna kalo samarpayatum unnata ujjvala rasam. So within that, what is the third thing which is speciality of us? The speciality is Vipralamba. This is where the Gaudiya Acharya, he sent a letter. The Vipralamba Bhava, which is a speciality of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, is not there very evidently in the Kumara Sampradaya. Kumara Sampradaya, they see Radha and Krishna are there, and we are serving Radha Krishna. There is Yugal Prem going on. Even though they describe Viraha, their description of Viraha is sort of temporary description of Viraha, only to nourish the Milan. Their goal is Milan. Their goal is not Viraha. But our goal is actually Viraha. Bahya Viraha, Antarangika Milana. I'm being very technical here. When there is external separation, internal union is strong. And more than that, the mood in which they serve is, they belong to Krishna's side. The gopis belonging to Krishna's side. But we belong to a category of devotion where we serve Radharani. So there is one book, which is Sankalpa, Kalpadrumaha. There, Dasi Bhavani, Krishna Thakur says, my whole goal is I want to become a Dasi of Radharani. Oh Radharani, I want to become Dasi. And Tarjani Sukhan. So by your scolding, I'll feel very happy when you scold me. And my whole purpose is to bring you close to Krishna. So this mood of Gaudiya Vaishnavism cannot be found in the Nimbarakiyas. I read few books of the Nimbarakya Sampradaya, but there's nothing compared to the mood of Vipralamba, what is described by our Gaudiya Raghunath Das Goswami, Vishwanath Thakur in their books. It's tremendous. Of course, when you say Rudra Sampradaya, that is Vishnu Swami, their raga, their madhurya is only limited. It's not very as profound as ours. Of course, Rudra and Pushti Marg, they're both same. When they say raga, their understanding of raga is different. Our understanding of raga is different. Our raga bhakti and raganuga, both are different. Raga there refers to spontaneity. But here, when we say raganuga, that means we accept one of the associates of Krishna in Vrindavan, Rajlila, as our spiritual master and follow in their footsteps. We follow in the footsteps of Ragatmika Bhaktas. So I'm just talking so many technical differences in it, but it is very deep. So this much is enough for you. Okay, let me just take one more question and finish up for today. As you told, one example of Prahlad Maharaj prayers different in Vishnu Purana and are more interesting. Then historically, what should be considered as reality? Oh, we always get Kalpaveda as a standard answer to such questions. Is there any other explanation? In historically, reality is question. What should be the answer? Of course, Kalpaveda is only one of the answers to it, one of the aspects to it. Other aspect is, like for example, you heard from me. And now I gave the example yesterday also. And some of other devotee asked, what did you hear in today's class? What did you do? You explain whatever I have told you in your own words to the other person. That does mean you have changed something. You're not changed, but the wordings are different. So by the narrations, when Sutta Goswami narrated in Naimisharanya under the category of Bhagavatam, the same narration which he did when he done the Vishnu Purana, which Parashara wrote, it was in a different version. It is version. Like you have versions in the computer. Somebody has. I'm very poor in this. Windows 7, Windows XP, Windows 10. Another another is Linux or something like that. And in the phones also Android and. But ultimately, the purpose is solved. That is, you are able to see me in the video, this thing, and you're able to hear. You're able to read the Veda base, open the Veda base. The same, but the version may be different. So it doesn't matter. We don't have to go too much. We don't have to dwell on this subject matter too much. It is just different versions of it. Now, of course, if you see Parikshit's story in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is totally different from the Parikshit story which is mentioned in Mahabharata. If you see the Pandavas retiring in Mahabharata, it is totally different from the Pandavas retiring in Bhagavatam. It is because Kalpaveda. That is Kalpaveda. At the same time, there is an aspect of versions. Same thing spoken in different places by the same person or different people in different ways, but the content will be the same. Okay, we stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.